Hello, can you hear it now? Okay. This is the AAC meeting, and I'm going to call the meeting to order. Raymond, can you do a roll call?
Chair James Marston,
Here?
Skylar Kovich, Nick Kuntz,
Here.
Karen Luckett, Michael Rausler,
Here.
Elizabeth Sorgman,
Here.
Suzanne Tejada,
Here.
Councilmember Oscar Gutierrez, Brian Demore,
Here.
John Doimus, Sarita King.
Here.
Thank you.
I would like to introduce our new member, Elizabeth Sorgman. Can you give us a little bit of background?
Hi. I'm really excited to be serving on this committee. And I also want to say thank you to the current members because you've dedicated a lot of time and energy. And so it makes a difference in our community to have people participating in all of the topics that impact our citizens. So that's exciting. And I hope that I can contribute some information and add to what you already have done. A little bit about me. I'm born and raised in Santa Barbara, so I know a lot of the local spaces. My dad used to deliver bread, and so I would go with him in the mornings to deliver bread to the restaurants at 5 in the morning. So I got to visit all kinds of back-of-house places and know a lot of Santa Barbara because of that. So that actually helped in my plan check because I would know those buildings. I am a practicing California architect. I am in private practice, and I am a CASP certified, so I am currently the president of CASI, which is the California Access Specialists Institute. And our mission is to provide education and to encourage more individuals to gain that certification, to help design and help people understand just all things that need to be addressed in accessibility. And I've learned a lot, and the more that I learn, the more I realize that I don't know. Because I am surrounded by a lot of professionals that have spent 40 years in this, so it's really great to learn from them and kind of understand the world and what they see. And what else? I'm also I'm a member of the ILRC, which is the Independent Living Resource Center. That helps a lot of our community members, so I'm excited to also learn a lot from them, and I hope to be able to contribute to this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate that in your background. And Raymond Skylar Kovich is here now.
Great, thank you.
Keep going.
Thank you.
Suzanne's next, and then
Thank
you're
you.
after that.
Here's your chair.
All right, the next item is committee reports from members and also staff announcements. So I know Suzanne has a report or a statement.
Yes, hi, this is Suzanne Tejada. I'm a member of the State Street Advisory Committee, and I just wanted to bring to the Access Advisory Committee attention that the cities in the process of creating a draft of the master plan for State Street. And the State Street Advisory Committee will be meeting again to review that draft on March 18th. Prior to that, the city has established small subcommittees, small groups within the State Street Advisory Committee to meet with the city to review certain aspects of the proposed master plan. I'm in the group that's going to be discussing mobility, and we are meeting next Wednesday, the 28th at 3 p.m. And I wanted to bring this to the Access Advisory Committee to have anybody give me any comments or any concerns or anything that they want me to relay at that meeting in terms of mobility. I have gotten a couple letters. I've gotten comments from Karen Luckett, and I've also gotten feedback from Elizabeth Sorgman. So please send me an email or a written comment. I'm happy to meet and have a phone conversation prior to Wednesday, the 28th. And there's a PowerPoint presentation that was distributed by staff. Brian, I think, sent it out And that was a PowerPoint presentation of the last State Street Advisory Committee meeting, which was on October 23rd. And that's when the consultant was proposing different scenarios. I don't know where the city is right now in terms of what they're thinking. I will get an agenda prior, probably Monday or Tuesday, of what's going to be discussed on Wednesday.
Thank you. And that's strictly mobility.
Strictly mobility,
Okay.
yeah. Which means probably different circulation, whether it's
Right.
public, private, bicycles, pedestrians, that kind of stuff.
Okay, but it's
I don't
not
have
gon-
any specifics of the
Okay.
structure.
But it really has nothing to do with access to like parklets or something, right? That's a different group. This is just mobility.
On State Street.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I hope everybody can give Suzanne their feedback on that.
How can we access the agenda?
I don't have it yet. I will get that 2 days prior, a couple days prior. Brian, how can I send that out to everybody, or send it to you, or how do I do that?
That would work if you have, is that a publicly noticed meeting, or is that an informal, like an ad hoc group? Do you know?
I do not know. I do not know. I'm
Okay.
assuming it's informal, but I can
All right.
find out.
Yeah, well, when you have the agenda, if you can get that over to me, I
Okay.
can let the committee know.
Could you repeat the date, please?
It is Wednesday, February 28th, 3 p.m. The meeting is going to be at City Hall, room 11. I can find out if it's a public meeting or not.
And Brian, she could also send it out BBC, correct?
Yes, I think it would be better if it came from staff, though.
Okay, Karen Luckett is here now. Do you have any member report?
Um,
Item 2?
on what?
The members' reports, I didn't know if you had something to share.
I don't have anything in particular to say other than, I am hoping to get the disabled community involved in the State Street Parade proper. And so I'm going to be working with a couple facilities and some of the Solstice artists on that. So, and also, I want to make sure that things are coming along with the Parks Department in providing accessibility to the disabled community for all city-sponsored events.
Okay, thank you. I have one comment I want to make. There's a meeting on Tuesday about the interim State Street group. Suzanne is on the master plan group. I'm on the interim State Street, what to do now. And they have a new design for the 1300 block of State Street, which is the one the Arlington is on. And the design now shows two-way bike lanes on the west side of the street, on the Arlington side, and then some diagonal parking in the middle of the street, and then 2 lanes of vehicle traffic on the east side. And my concern, I've heard from others, that there doesn't seem to be any safety lanes to go from the parking there into either side of the street. And also, Suzanne pointed out to me that people who are just trying to get something in and out of their trunk would be up against the walls of the vehicle lane. So I would like people to look at that agenda item. It's for next Tuesday, so the design and the plans are already there. And if you have concerns about that diagonal parking in the center of the street, please write or come to the meeting. I will be presenting my concerns at that meeting, but it would be nice if everybody else could take a look and see if they have any problems with that new plan.
Jim, I just want to point out that the plan you described is one of a couple different possibilities that are being considered, correct?
That was before, but now they were told they just wanted to consider one plan. So as far as I understand it, this is the plan
That's
they're
the
considering.
plan now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're getting rid of the parklets at Opal and across the street at the Mexican place.
Okay.
Carlitos?
Yeah.
Carlitos.
But you know, we tried to get them to put the old blue curb back in
Yeah.
front of Opal,
Yeah.
but now there's bike lanes there, so I don't know if we can get that one reestablished, but, so there's that two things I want to bring up and see what they can do, but.
And does this new plan call for an accessible loading zone? Because as we know, the recent remodels are at Granada and at the new Vic in the theater district were constructed without accessible loading zones. And I think those are probably building code violations outstanding. I'd like to see those addressed
Okay.
in this project as well.
I will bring that up. The one tricky thing is now it's bike lanes next to the Arlington, although I saw someplace that they're going to have a drop-off zone there. So I don't know how you have a drop-off zone while you also have the bike path there. So
Right.
these are something that's going to come up Tuesday, but take a look at it and make comments if you could, okay?
All for bicycles, but they don't get to trump the ADA.
Yes. Okay, item number 3, public comments. This is for anyone who wants to speak on items that are not on the agenda. You have up to 5 minutes to discuss about something.
We have 2 in-person public comments, the first being Cassandra Ensberg. And Cassandra has a visual that she would like presented on the screen.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Yep. Good morning. Yes, I'm Cassandra Ensberg. I'm an architect and I'm an advocate for inclusion and accessibility. And I'm here today to thank you all for your work. I to strongly support you and your work. It's critical work, and I just want you to know that it is greatly appreciated. In speaking to you today, I know I'm speaking to the choir, but I want to support you and make a strong supportive comment about the accessible kneeling bus, also known as a trolley, whatever you want to call it. This is a requirement for accessibility on State Street. I've been speaking to this issue since the street was closed in 2020 and trying to push for this, and I find it disturbing that it hasn't been addressed, that this is something that is critical for access to the public right away. I'm providing this little sketch that I did I think about a year ago, and primarily to see, that's my mother, the 95-year-old, but mainly to highlight just what you all are very familiar with, but for those who are watching, what a kneeling bus is and how it makes it easy for someone who has any kind of mobility issues, to make it easy for them to get on and off the bus without making a big hullabaloo about it. And that it has this little this ramp that comes out, and then on the inside it has clear space inside for people with walkers or wheelchairs, whatever, can easily be comfortable inside the bus and enjoy the public right-of-way, both up and down the street, for individuals who don't have the ability to ride a skateboard or a bicycle, or to be able to walk very well. So I brought that mainly for those images there, just to remind everyone. And to also say that this equipment, these kneeling buses, are in town now. MTD does have them. They are available. And I would like to urge that the city immediately, post-haste, get these buses, work it out with MTD, whatever's necessary to do so, and get them running onto State Street on a regular basis. And that's what I had to say. And thank you again so much for all your work.
Can I ask you some questions about your imagery?
Yeah, sure.
So you have a picture of a trolley with this little lift, and so where did you take that photo? Where is that trolley located?
That one is one I just found online. I was just looking for one that was, and I just, this was just a regular bus, and I thought, well, if the city wanted to spend some money and make it look a little more adorable, they could paint it to look like a trolley. But essentially, that's an older model, I think. We can all see these, and I'm sure you're all very familiar with these small buses that MTD has that type of equipment. I was just trying to show that functionality, that it just kneels down, the thing slides out, you get on, few minutes later, you're on the bus, as opposed to that picture in the lower left is the kind of accessible bus I would not recommend. This is the one where it has the big door at the back, somebody has to open it up, and then this big thing comes out and lowers down. You get on, it lifts you back up. This is more for like a, a big bus. And it takes a long time to get on and off it. So I like these kneeling buses because they're so simple and easy for everyone to get on and off without a big production.
Thank you for that information.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank you.
And I hope we can make it to Tuesday's meeting where they'll be talking about transit on State Street, so.
Yeah, and if I could just say, I really support what Ms. Tejada said about, looking at that document from the October 23rd meeting. I would strongly recommend that you all look at that very closely to see, what's being proposed and talked about. And I would urge you all to be strong. I think, your work is important and it is required. It's the law. So I just want to thank you all again and urge you to really dig into that. This is the time.
Okay, thank you so much.
Ms.
Thank you.
Ensberg, I want to thank you for bringing this to everyone's attention, and I totally support what you're doing. For anyone interested in understanding the primary difference here that I think Ms. Ensberg's trying to share with us, this is a ramp van. It's not a lift van. And there's some safety concerns that I have as a wheelchair user. And if you want to see the difference, you can go. The MTD has these ramped vans in circulation. The little mini trolley, I believe, is on the Cottage Hospital line right now. So if you're in that area, you can see those lowered floor vans and how simple the ramp mechanism is, and it's very safe. You never leave the ground. There's maybe 6 inches spanning over the gutter. In contrast, if you go to any show at the Santa Barbara Bowl, they have these other trolleys where the deck height is 4 or 5 feet high, maybe a little less. But there's a lift on the back that lifts you up in the air, and maybe it's my fear of heights, but I feel like if something failed, I would have a catastrophic fall. And it really bothers me. So I really, if we do a bus or a trolley of any sort, I really think for safety, and it's actually more than safety, it's a maintenance issue. The lifts are far more prone to failure, far more difficult to maintain. I have both a lift van and a ramp van for my own personal use. And I have to take the lift van to LA for maintenance because there's nobody to do it around here, the hydraulics and stuff. The ramp van is much simpler, fewer moving parts, fewer points of failure.
Thank you, Nick.
May I share one little tiny story on that? On that
She's
issue,
still
or?
within her 5 minutes.
Okay.
I don't know if I used all my 5 minutes, but I just want to say that that picture in the lower left is exactly what Board Member Kuntz was mentioning, and we ended up, we were at LAX, and the equipment, the door wouldn't open. So after waiting about 45 minutes for the bus to show up, then they were unable to get the door to open after about half an hour of messing with it, and then they were going to have to take it away and come back with another bus, which was probably take another hour. And so finally the guys just managed to kind of muscle it and get it to open, and so we were able to get onto the bus, got back here to Santa Barbara, and they were so worried. We were over at the Sears building where they drop off. They were worried that they wouldn't be able to get it to close up after or open to get us off. They said, well, could you mind to just wait? We'll go take everybody to Goleta, drop them off, and then bring you back. Meanwhile, we had our ride waiting, everything. We ended up just having to, I grabbed my mother, and the bus driver grabbed her legs, and we just schlepped her out of the bus and put her in her wheelchair rather than trying to even deal with it. So it's just, that's the way these things can be. So I agree with Board Member Kuntz. This is the simple approach.
And I wanted
Thank
to
you.
add to that really quickly. The lifts are always broken and there's operator error. They don't know how to use them. So this has happened to me many times as well.
And the fallback, the manual override, is virtually non-existent on a hydraulic lift. When the motor fails on a ramp, you just manually pull it out like a drawer. It's still there, and it's not a major concern.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next public comment?
Our next public comment is by Nancy Capone.
Thank you so much. My name is Nancy Capone, and I would like to express my appreciation to all of you for the addition of blue parking spaces on the downtown cross streets near State Street intersections. These have been a real game changer for me. Discovering a new blue parking spot in front of Art Essentials on East Victoria Street was a wonderful surprise. Thank you. Would it be possible to add some blue parking near the intersection of Carrillo and State? When we dine at Roy's in the evenings, there's nowhere to park. There's still a need to provide blue and green parking spaces near the accessible entrances at the historic Santa Barbara County Courthouse. This would provide accessible parking for people serving on jury duty. I appreciate the removal of many of the parklets on the downtown side streets. Valuable street parking has been restored, and the architecture is visible once again. And I just want to thank you all again for your continued good work that you do on behalf of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Wait, I just want to question, can you just tell me, you said near the
I can sit down
courthouse?
now.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you said near the courthouse, but what corners were you indicating?
Okay, this was a presentation I made over a year ago when I'd been summoned for jury duty and was unable to serve because they just have 75-minute parking around most of that block. And they have 2 accessible entrances, but they don't have the blue parking or green parking near those, so that I was unable to serve for jury duty. They just dismissed me, and so this still hasn't been addressed, so I'm bringing it back to the committee.
Okay, so it wasn't that you were recommending a specific spot, it's just somewhere in that area?
Well, no, near the accessible entrances, there are 2 accessible
Okay,
entrances
okay.
to the courthouse, and that's where they need to be located.
Where-
But I realize this is between the county and the city, and that's probably why nothing's happened yet. Maybe it takes more coordination between it, because it's a county courthouse.
Ms. Capone, where are the accessible entrances? What streets are they on?
Well, they have an accessible entrance across from the jury pool building, which is on Santa Barbara Street.
Okay.
So I was able to get that far. But when you come back, you need to stay all day, and there's no parking other than a 75-minute.
What's interesting to me is that because of the one-way traffic around the courthouse, you can't have a wheelchair accessible parking on the block faces that the entrances are on. And the only block face where you could have an accessible parking space where a ramp or a lift could let out onto the sidewalk is on Figueroa Street, where the entrance is not
Not accessible.
accessible. So I don't know the solution. And there is no parking on the Anapamu block face, I don't think.
No, but they had all that library drop-off parking on Anacapa, and then a bunch of 75 minutes. So that's the area where we could do something, but especially over by the jury pool. I didn't mean to take
Well, there is,
too much time on your meeting.
there is one ADA spot by the jury pool.
And that's always taken.
Yeah, I know.
They told me staff takes that, but it's never available.
No?
So anyway, not to hijack your meeting here, but thank you for listening, and I hope somebody will work on this.
May I suggest, Nick, you can get the Blue Curb group to try to talk
Sure.
to Derek or something?
Yeah.
Okay. Next public comment?
There are no more public
I'd
comments.
just like to second the agreement that there are not enough handicap spaces and there are not enough green spaces. I drive a very big truck with a high camper on the top, and I cannot find a parking place. I cannot get into I almost got caught going to the film festival in one of the parking lots with my high top. So I agree there needs to be more parking for even industrial trucks so they can stop in State Street and get a lunch. But just a side note.
Thank you. Okay, item 4 is the chair and vice chair election. Do I hear any nominations for that?
Jim, would you be willing to continue as chair?
I'd be honored if no one else wants to do it.
I would second that nomination.
Well, thank you. And for vice chair?
Elizabeth, would you be willing?
Sure.
Second again.
Okay. In the interest of time, is there anyone who does not agree with those two nominations? I will then call that a unanimous decision, if that's okay. Thank you. Approval of the minutes. Does anyone have any comments on the minutes that were sent out to us? If not, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and again, in the interest of time, is there anyone who's opposed to accepting those minutes? Okay, that's unanimous decision to accept the minutes. Okay, now we have a talk from Mayor Rouse and Sarah Gorman on civility. Welcome.
Good morning, committee members. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for serving because this is one of these important committees. We've been doing the tour of a lot of our different advisory committees, our discretionary design review committees, not all of them, but we're focusing on the ones that really interface the most with the public and have the most consequence when it comes to making policies for city council. So the reason why we're talking about this today is to keep pace with our culture, keep consistency with how we serve the public. And a lot of that depends on you and the conduct of the board when you're having these meetings. As you regard the public, as you regard each other, and you regard staff, civility and decorum is extremely important because it connotes professionalism between all of you. Now, you're all volunteers, but you are representing the city, and you are an arm of city council when you go out and you talk to the public, and then you guide us in making policy decisions, whether it's even a curb cut, a painted curb, or some other kind of device. It's important. Now, I realize that State Street's been a bit of a challenge, especially on the promenade these last few years, and I know that I've heard from quite a few of you. Isn't that right, Mr. Kuntz? I've heard a number of things. And we do appreciate that, and you're not being discounted or ignored. We're working through a few things, as you might well know. But as regards the public is here, and sometimes they're not civil. Sometimes they're animated. Sometimes they're emotional. I know this because I sit on a board myself, and I understand how this goes from time to time. But what's really important is to maintain who you are, remain the high level, and stay professional in all your dealings with the public. And when it comes to staff, we have to remember that staff is there to serve you as a committee and to serve the city itself. So when you're questioning staff, which you certainly may do, once again, remain in that civil tone because staff has no other option besides saying yes, committee member, no committee member. They're not going to engage, they're not going to argue. And oftentimes, even on council, we seem to forget that from time to time. And it's really important because they're professionals as well. This is their job, and they're here to be part of your committee and serve at the pleasure of the committee, for the times that you're on selected as commission members. You were selected by council for very specific reasons. You all applied, you all interviewed, and we had to choose amongst the best candidates, and we think we got the best candidates. And I can see by the fact, number one, you're all in attendance today, which is fabulous. And number two is because you are so engaged. We do get feedback from the Access Advisory Committee. So we take it very, very seriously. I know you do too. And once again, this is a blanket thing that Sarah and I are going around and letting people know exactly our expectations, even though sometimes we don't set the example ourselves. I realize that. I was waiting for that comment from somebody. But that's really the goal. The goal is the professionalism because if you want the public and council to take you seriously, you have to take yourself seriously. And being serious with each other, being cohesive, being together and not quibbling. And if you have a situation, Mr. Chair, where things start to go south, you have the power to say, let's take a 5-minute recess and walk outside. Any kind of decorum that doesn't happen within the crowd, you are in control of. That's certainly your discretion to say, we don't use those words here, or we would appreciate a more civil tone from you when you address this committee. And all that's really, really important. So once again, thank you for your attention. Thank you completely for your service, and you are a valuable arm of City Council, and I appreciate your service and the time you spend here in these meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
If I may,
Sir.
first of all, thank you, Mayor. Having been to a number of city council meetings, I want to thank you and your colleagues for the role model that you guys set for all of us. It is difficult, and under extreme circumstances, I have seen very, very cool heads much more often than I've seen, the reaction or reactionary response or a negativity. And I think the role model you guys set is outstanding, and I think doing what you guys are doing now, going to each of the various committees made up of community members, lay leaders, is incredibly important, and it sets a tone for all of us going forward, and reminds us that an advisory committee, our capacity is to advise. It's not to make decisions. That's somebody else. And sometimes we do hear from the audience, why aren't we doing, or why aren't things happening? I came in and spoke to you 2 months ago, 2 years ago, and it's still the same. And it's important for all of us and all the other committee members who serve to just remember where we fit in this grand puzzle that is an incredible community of Santa Barbara. And thank you for your work as well.
Well, thank you. And as a reminder that all of us, none of us can act unilaterally. None of us have executive powers. We have to act as a majority in public all the time. So that's a very key thing, because the public doesn't always understand that. And the issues you guys face are oftentimes very personal and very emotional. Sometimes it's difficult for people to come up and speak about their issues in a public way, and you guys all know that. So that's why I really particularly appreciate this committee, and why civility is even more important here than it is in many of our other advisory and discretionary design review boards. So thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Well said.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, hello, Board. I am Sarah Gorman. I am the City Clerk Services Manager. Worked with you in your appointment process. And I am also here with Graciela Reynoso, who is Human Services Manager, and we will be speaking a little bit more on this training. So we'll talk about the role of the boards, commissions, and the advisory groups. We'll talk about communication, conduct and decorum, anti-harassment training. We have a half-hour block, but I'm sure it won't take that long. It's usually a lot briefer. And you already had Mr. Rouse. Okay, talking about the advisory group set up here in the city of Santa Barbara. So some cities, we call them wussy cities, might have 1 or 2 or 3 boards and commissions. Santa Barbara has a different outlook toward boards and commissions. We have over 40, and it's baked into the city charter. The charter provides a number of committees, and various other committees have been formed either by actions of council or of the voters. And the input from those boards and commission members to council and to the public is really critical. It's fundamental to the way the city of Santa Barbara is run, is to have input from the community and input from people who are particularly interested in the topics on the boards and commissions, or experts. So we really appreciate all of your input on your individual subject areas. The council delegates advisory and decision-making authority, depending on the board, to various boards and commissions. And each commission has your own defined role. There's the Water Commission. There's Historic Landmarks. There's Parks and Recreation. So there are a lot of different buckets where people provide advice on their individual subject matter. The appointed members are all representatives of the city. Goal is to increase participation from various community interests. to engage the community and provide that advice and expertise in each commission's assigned area, and to remain within the purview and authority of your commission or board. And I also just wanted to emphasize, which the mayor already did, is that we are going around to a number of boards and commissions with this training. It is a good broad-based reminder for lots of different groups. Graciela and I have spent a lot of time together, often with that picture of Randy looking down at us while we're listening. So talking about conduct, expectation is to conduct the city's business in a professional and decorous manner, and be the leader for civility and decorum. Sometimes it can get pretty heated in these meetings. And part of it is being professional and decorous and welcoming to members of the public that come. And it applies to this commission, and sometimes it applies more to other, say, design review commissions, where you'll have a neighbor come who has never spoken before a city board before. But people will come before the city's boards and commissions who are there to speak on one particular topic and haven't come to a board meeting before, don't know where to go, don't know how to turn on their mic, just unfamiliar with the process. So being welcoming to those folks is important, which I know you do here. So being welcoming of civil participation and engagement, and the basic Brown Act rules and rules that I try and teach my 12-year-olds. Pay attention. Put your phone away as much as you can. I'm not even holding it. It's sitting back there with Ms. Reynoso. This is really impressive. Be respectful of each other's time. Give an opportunity for other people to speak on the board. But at the same time, if you have something that you want to say, make sure that you say it. And don't be distracted. Ha ha ha, that's so easy nowadays. But we do our best. And now Ms. Reynoso, you could just speak from the podium maybe.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Graciela Reynoso. I'm the Human Resources Manager here at the City of Santa Barbara. Is this? I think it is. It's green.
Get a little closer, please.
Okay, thank you. I'm here to talk about some of the organizational initiatives and efforts that we make in establishing a respectful and decorous work environment. And some of the documents that you have received in your orientation packets, such as the Excellence in Customer Service Code of Conduct, and we have our organizational values that both really affirm the city's dedication to making sure that everybody is welcomed into the organization, and the public and board members and employees. Next slide, please. So the code of conduct that I just described really addresses, really says, address your coworkers, address the public and staff in a respectful and patient manner, treat others as you'd wish to be treated, practice active and respectful listening, and being an active listener really gets you a long way into problem resolution. Monitor your tone of voice and body language. What studies have discovered is that when your tone of voice or your body language, when we forget or we kind of are caught in the moment, our tone of voice and body language will communicate about 80 to 90% of the message. So having that welcoming voice tone and watching our body language is really conducive to effective communication. Make a genuine effort to listen to divergent viewpoints, whether within the organization, amongst employees, or with the community. Obviously, every one of us has our own way that we think things should be and our own opinions. So making that genuine effort to have people be heard is important. And then remember, it's okay to disagree without being disagreeable. So I don't agree with everybody that I necessarily interact with, but to keep that decorum is really important. Next slide. We do have a policy on non-discrimination and harassment. which is really the city's affirmation of equality in the conduct of the city's business. We also have Resolution 93-134, which protects board members and vendors and city employees and people who conduct business with the city from being treated disparately, right? So being treated without equality. In addition to that, that puts on us a responsibility to protect our fellow employees. For example, as a human resources manager, if I hear that there is somebody is being mistreated, I am, per policy and law, to respond to that in an effective manner. So those are some of the city policies that really help lay the groundwork for a respectful work environment amongst employees and the individuals with whom we conduct city business. Next slide, please. We recently updated this non-harassment policy to include anti-bullying as well. And as you know, bullying behavior has really been all over the media as well, for example, because of the detrimental effects of someone being bullied. Early on, when social media, for example, was amongst us, the bullying wasn't really addressed, but now that we have seen the effects of bullying, and it could be psychological effects, physical effects on the person, we really as a society have addressed stopping that bullying. So abusive conduct is you would call bullying within the organization. So our non-discrimination and harassment policy now includes an anti-abusive conduct component. And abusive conduct within a work environment would be something like yelling or belittling, or treating someone with a condescending tone of voice, ostracizing an individual, silencing other people. Because the effect of this abusive conduct is that we don't get the full person to be present and to fully engage in the work that we are doing for the community. So the effects of abusive conduct are people kind of separate and remove themselves from situations they don't feel safe in. People feel intimidated or ashamed by the behavior that they are receiving. So we do a lot of training for employees so that we can lay the groundwork for civil treatment of one another, and really to build that culture that we want to be proud of here at the City of Santa Barbara. Thank you.
All right, back to me. And to you, Chair Marston, newly reappointed chair. Speaking about the role of the chair. So, and this goes to some of what the mayor was speaking about. The chair is setting the welcoming tone to staff and the public before the board. Chair is responsible for the order of and conducting the meeting fairly and efficiently. And just to remind you, the value of a well-timed recess, that the chair can call a short recess when it's needed for decorum, and sometimes that can be just the ticket if it feels like the temperature has gotten a little high out in the audience, and it is helpful to just take a few minutes. I've seen that work remarkably well. And when things get a little stressful, you can just picture this picture of beautiful sunset Santa Barbara, and continue to conduct yourself as a representative of the city, being courteous and welcoming of others' opinion. And that's our training, and we're available for any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, are there any questions for any of the speakers?
I have a question. Have you considered condensing this down into a document that could be given to all new board members as part of their onboarding? Because there's such turnover, and we've seen it here. There's a lot of institutional knowledge, and that is just comes with time and learning the processes, learning the roles, and learning the expectations. It's not in the onboarding today, so that could be very helpful, I think.
To the degree you could create a document like that, outstanding idea, Nick, to share it with all committees and new committee members, but I'd encourage you to send it to every one of the 2,000-plus nonprofit organizations operating in Santa Barbara for each of, us CEOs and executive directors to use with our board members, our committee members, and the community at large.
We got away from a lot of our training during COVID and whatnot. It is our plan to do a more robust onboarding and training for all design review, or all discretionary boards. And we're going to be doing that program coming up very soon, right? Years ago, we used to do it on a big Saturday, and we had everybody in. I don't know what the plan or the structure is going to be, but it is something we're going to take seriously beyond, be guidelines and documents that are certainly something that we can hand out. But also the one-on-one training, I think, is also important. And we want to get input back from the boards as well.
I would take the show on the road.
Yeah.
This is just something that every community needs, and we can be a model.
Yeah, thank you.
You might also want to hand out a little paper to people who speak at certain meetings, the public, so that it's more cordial.
Okay,
thank you, board
before
members.
we get to discussion, is there any public comment about this?
No public comments.
Okay. And now, after the questions, do you have any discussion at all, or should we thank them and move ahead?
We should thank them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, Ms.
Thank you very
Gorman.
much.
All right, the next item is the ADA Coordinator's Report.
Very good. Thank you, Chair Marsden. We're doing pretty well. I just had a time check here. We're doing pretty well on schedule, but I'm going to try to be fairly brief here with my ADA Coordinator report because I am looking forward to the transition plan update, making sure we have sufficient time for that. But there are a few things that have been in the works. We've been discussing the past several meetings, and I wanted to give some quick updates on. We can't get into a discussion on it today, but being I've got your attention, I wanted to just give you some updates. Starting with special events. I've been working with the special events team over in Parks and Rec, and one of the big things that we've been hearing is the need for accessible ADA and CBC compliant portable restrooms at all of our special events. And what we've heard and witnessed is that a lot of times these portables, they may have a sticker on it with the international symbol of accessibility, but that doesn't mean they're compliant with either building code. Well, the building code is more restrictive. The California building code is more restrictive. So depending on which vendor you're going after, they may not realize this is a California application and you need a little bit more space. But not only the portable itself, but where it's situated is another big issue. I've been able to be in contact with Marburg and their staff who work on the special events, and they provided me a cut sheet of what they are now deploying. But the follow-up that needs to take place now is connecting with them further and saying, okay, how many of those do you have? And working with our special events team over in Parks and Rec and understanding kind of the layout of some of our bigger events, because we need to know that there are enough of those portables, because every location for a big event like Fiesta, there's a lot of different locations where portables are deployed. At every location, there needs to be at least one that is ADA and CBC compliant. So just taking that another step further, not totally trusting Marburg because he emailed me a cut sheet, and that cut sheet appears to be compliant, which is encouraging. But I kind of want to see, like, go meet with their staff and see what they have in stock. That'll give me a little more confidence that when it comes to these events that they'll be right around the corner. that we were able to meet the needs of the community. And the other part, of course, is following up with the Parks and Rec staff so that when the events do happen, that we're paying attention to where these portables get deployed so that the people who need them can actually get to them. So that's where we're at on that. We could probably do a follow-up with the ad hoc soon. I don't know the last time. I guess we'll hear it in the next portion. There's a special events. I don't know if they've met since our last meeting. Let's see. And then we did get an email from former committee member Bob Burnham about the film festival, and he wanted us to read this, so I'm not considering this as public comment necessarily. This is just something that has been brought to our attention. I wanted to make sure you were all aware. I'm going to read his message. And he said, the Santa Barbara International Film Festival has just completed its 40th season, showing a multitude of films and documentaries from February 7th through February 17th. To my knowledge, not one of these was outfitted with audio description, which subsequently excludes an entire population of blind and visually impaired persons from enjoying equal access to these films. Apparently, prior attempts to engage in fruitful conversation with film festival staff and those responsible for organizing and presenting this international film festival have been exercises in futility. I recommend, he's recommending that the AAC draft a letter. I'm going to say it might be better, and I've done in the past when things have been brought to my attention, drafted letters, whether it was regarding valet parking, or there's another update I'm going to give on this sidewalk blockage. But I think coming from the ADA, the city's ADA coordinator on city letterhead would be a good way to at least get a response from Film Festival and understand. I don't know the specifics of.
If I may interrupt for a moment?
Yeah.
As that letter comes to bear, I don't know if there's a problem with any rules or regulations or Baker, whoever it may be, but we could all review it and sign on as well, and that way you would have community members as well as the full AAC, as well as, you in your position. Just, if you want to give this thing really weight.
Yeah, more eyes, the better, in my opinion, on that. Skylar has his hand raised. Mr. Kovich.
Let's see, is this on yet? No?
It's on now.
Oh, great. Yeah, so this film festival was not really something I had heard much about before, but I am a bit familiar with the audio description issue. And so, yeah, I'd be happy to help draft a letter if needed, even if it was from you, with just more of the correct wording for what Bob and I guess, the blind community as a whole would really be asking for. Try and start that conversation with them.
Excellent.
And Skylar, would you know who we might recommend the film festival consult with on that? Because I'm sure
Yes.
part of their lack of response is just not knowing where to begin.
Right, yeah, and I guess, so the festival would be screening.
It's on. You don't need to push the button.
Yeah, the festival would be screening movies made by others, right? So it actually is more on the responsibility of the filmmakers to create the audio description tracks, not so much the festival itself, the way I understand it. So,
But I would imagine there would be some technology that goes along with that to convey the description.
right, yeah, and I have some connections with that industry, so, yeah, I could definitely help with that.
I'd like to make a comment. A lot of the movies have subtitles, and unless you can read, you're not going to know what the movie is about. And I think there's technology available that could possibly, give an audio version of what's going on in the movie, because it would be nice for our vision impaired community to view some of these great movies.
Yeah, if there's subtitles and you need audio description for what's visually going on, that starts to be a challenge where you're just having such an overwhelming amount of sound that it could be hard to process everything. But, you know, every improvement is worth making and trying for. 'Cause you know, it's technology that's evolving, and we definitely want any festival that's coming to Santa Barbara to be a part of that.
Excuse me, is it a matter, Skylar, of encouraging the film festival itself to then focus and select consciously more films that have been made or produced that way with that technology?
Ideally, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily want films to be excluded, you know, only because of that, but at least for that to be a factor, and also for them to encourage the makers of those films to invest in making those audio tracks.
But what I'm thinking is, I know from other film festivals, there are generally different categories. You know, whether it's foreign films or shorts or animations or whatever, and then films are selected from that category, and maybe we could encourage the film festival to have a category of films that have this particular technology.
Right.
And maybe that might be a different way of, because I agree, we wouldn't want to exclude or encourage the exclusion of any of the award-winning wonderful films that they bring, but maybe they just need to be selecting from a different pool for another candidate for another segment of our community.
Right.
That would really benefit for that.
Right. Oh, and I guess the other problem is that Bob has mentioned before is he does go to movie theaters a lot more than I do personally. You know, me having you know, young family, it's not it's easy to get out for that. But sometimes the audio description machines in the theaters don't work correctly, or people don't know how to turn them on. Just like what we were talking about with the bus ramps, actually. You know, the operator error that sometimes happens. So yeah, there's two different issues. Does the film have audio description available, or is it not being turned on?
How common is the audio description? Is it only the big budget blockbusters that have it? Is it something that, you know, these limited budget indie films that are likely showing up at the film festival just not able to provide or even required?
Yeah, it's a good. I would like to look into it more. I think
Yeah.
it's growing in the indie community, especially. I mean, more so. There's a segment of the film community that's particularly, you know, disability conscious, I guess you could say. But outside of that, it probably is still, you know, not as well done in the smaller film world.
It begs an interesting moral question about, you know, the accessibility requirements in the media. I don't know what's out there.
May I suggest that maybe the Special Events Committee could take this offline and discuss this, and with Skylar's help, perhaps draft a letter? But I'd like to get back to Brian's report here.
What is the Special Events Committee a different advisory board? Or?
It's a ad hoc.
Okay. There's one here for this board? I hadn't
Yes.
heard of that.
The only problem I know is that this is not really a city function, Brian, correct? But the
It's
ci-
put on by the film festival.
Right, but
Right.
the city works with them as far as traffic and movement of people and stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have an in and we have influence, so we'll
Okay.
leverage that.
Is there like a sponsor? Does the city sponsor it at any level? Because my thought is at some point, maybe the city has a requirement and to be involved. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, and I don't know what the exact requirements are for this type of media. I think that would be good discussion for
Events.
future.
Okay, Brian,
Yeah, I second the motion for ad hoc, and
wait.
possibly we can have Roger here or meet with Roger separately to discuss this concern.
Sorry, who is Roger?
Roger Durling is the director of the film festival.
Okay.
Long time.
Does he live here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
can we just have the special events ad hoc talk to
That
him?
would be a good next step.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So Brian's going to draft a letter, we're going to approve it or look at it, but also I think the ad hoc committee could meet with Roger and tell him our concerns.
Now or later, after the letter?
It all depends on how quickly Brian can get it out.
It might be good to have the meeting beforehand. See.
Okay, yeah, and get his feedback. Basically, someone has to pay money to hire someone to just describe the movie and put it on the soundtrack. So it can get expensive.
Or use technology if it's available.
Yeah, there's some options, yeah, and there's a lot that I need to learn about the cutting edge developments, but I am able to, and I actually am going to a conference pretty soon, the CSUN Assistive Technology Conference next month, where that will probably come up. So I can come back with some information.
Shep Kruger.
All right.
Okay.
Continue on.
So in the interest of wrapping up this agenda item, I just want to share one last thing. There's an item that's gone to ordinance committee, it's gone to council for introduction, and it's up for adoption. And it's kind of vague in the title because it's covering a bunch of different things, but there's, for the committee, there may be interest in just knowing that it's going to give staff more of an ability when there are sidewalk obstructions to be able to address those issues immediately and not have to go through a long notification process. And, you know, you have so many days to remove after it's been declared a public nuisance. Basically, what we're saying with this new ordinance is if you're blocking the sidewalk, that's a health and safety issue, and we have a right to go in and remove that immediately. So that came up really out of something else that was brought to our attention by this committee, and that was a sign that kept ending up in the middle of the sidewalk on State Street. So those kinds of things, it will be easier for us to take care of, whether it's a sign or construction, staging, whatever it might be.
Great.
Thank you. And
so-
I appreciate your work with Marburg. I know it's been a long time to try to get this to be truly accessible, but I'm glad you're looking into it. You told me to remind you that you might have a minute statement on Government Code 4452.
That'll come up on the ADA transition plan.
Okay. And are you done, sir?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Brian on his?
I have one comment. If Brian could maybe take a picture of the octagon toilets, I believe there's 8-sided, to Marlboro when he visits them. I personally went in with a measuring stick and measured them, and they might be big enough, but with the placement of the toilet, you can't do a full rotation with a wheelchair inside. So maybe they can, look at purchasing some of these newer, bigger ones.
All right, thank you, Brian. Item number 8, ad hoc committee reports. The first one is the annual report ad hoc. I would imagine there's nothing there, is that correct?
I have nothing at this time.
Okay.
Same.
The sidewalk ad hoc committee. Does anyone else have something? I have a summary. I sent you out the letter I got, and I have copies of it here if anyone in the audience wants to see what the. Pardon? What?
Do we need to appoint a new member to this committee?
No?
Yes, we have a
Yes.
vacancy.
I've got that highlighted here, but
To which one?
sidewalk ad hoc has a vacancy.
Anybody want to volunteer for that?
I can volunteer.
Okay, let's put Elizabeth to work on that one.
I agree. I nominate Elizabeth. Do we need to vote to it?
Second.
I have a comment on the ad hoc, though, for sidewalk.
Does that need to be voted on?
Nah.
Okay, sorry.
I recently attended a webinar put on by the Certified Access Specialist Institute, and they were talking about outdoor dining and how it impedes on sidewalks. And one of the main takeaways that I got was that the sidewalk has to have linear access for a wheelchair. The wheelchair person is not expected to go, right angle, left angle, right angle, to go around anything that blocks a straight path of access.
just as important for the visually impaired as the mobility impaired.
Yeah. As I said, I have my full report if anyone wants one, but I have a summary here just to get this on the record. There were 2 ramps by the old Macy's at Coda and Chapala that were non-compliant, and they had some dangerous openings for the storm drain. So the city fixed those. It was quite expensive to fix that storm drainage stuff, but they did it all. And otherwise, canes could get stuck in that storm drain. And then there was 22 ramps installed near the city college, including 4 at the intersection of Shoreline and Loma Alta. In addition, they added an accessible pedestrian signal and improved the push-button mounting locations. So the push-button are conveniently located near the ramps. And then starting in April, Public Works will replace non-compliant ramps on State Street between Constance and Las Positas, San Andreas between Mitchell Terrena and Carrillo, and on Coast Village Road. Accessible pedestrian signals will be added to the traffic signals on State Street at Calle Laredo and De La Vina in April.
Wait, what was that? Yeah, that's my street, but what's happening there? APS?
APS.
Got it, thank you.
On both State and Calle Reales and De La Vina. And then there's going to be an accessible there is a blue curb now near the People for Housing at 816
Cacique.
Street.
Cacique.
And one thing that was I brought to Brian and to Derek, there's a new law now in California. They call it a daylighting law. It wants you to move any parking 20 feet away from any intersection. So the drivers have a better view of the pedestrians, and the pedestrians have a better view of the cars coming. So some of our blue curbs are close to the intersection, which is good, but they're going to have to move those a little bit. But they see no problem with that. But at least they're addressing what to do about that. So that's all for my summary on that. And we now have a new member.
Well, there was a motion, there was no vote.
Okay. Does anyone disagree that we should allow Elizabeth on this?
Ad hoc.
Okay, I'll call that a unanimous vote. Anything for the parking ad hoc committee?
Check my notes here, but I don't think I have anything.
We had a recent meeting with, was it Sarah Clark? And she asked us on the committee what type of parking meter we would prefer to have so it's accessible. And we came to a consensus that that should be both manual and, what was the other thing, online?
App-based?
App-based, yes. So she's looking into that.
I think the other thing is we wanted to limit the need for a ticketing system, because reaching a ticket can be problematic. Keeping a ticket exposed on the dashboard can be problematic. So beyond the ticketing, we're just having a more accessible interface. So having to press a button on a box outside a window of a vehicle is problematic, but if they can provide a accommodation by accessing that interface via phone, that helps mitigate that problem.
Thank you. Outdoor dining and State Street interim operations ad hoc. I have a few things I'd like to say. There's a city council meeting on Tuesday that I'll be talking at. They keep talking about they want the vehicles to be accessible, but they don't put the word all vehicles in there. And so I'm going to ask them, please make it all of the vehicles must be accessible. And we have to have a minimum number of chairs. There's been real concern about these very small micro transits that only have room for maybe a wheelchair and maybe one attendant. But we have 2 people on this board who have children too. So at the least, it should be your spouse and your child. So to me, at least we should ask for a minimum of 3 chairs. Now, Ms. Clark doesn't want to have anything like that in there, but I don't want to see a bunch of people making bids when this RFP goes out that don't at least cover that minimum. So if you're concerned about that, please let me know. I'll be speaking Tuesday at council on this item, but those are 2 things that I think are very important.
So chairs for which,
On shuttles?
oh, for shuttles, yeah.
Yeah, so if you load up for example, I have a family of 4, and traveling with a toddler and a teenager and my wife, I frequently found myself on those shuttle buses where I had to choose who was going to stay with me and who was going to go off potentially alone. I could have my wife, who's the most helpful for me physically, but then that left a toddler and a teenager unaccompanied. I could take the teenager and leave the toddler and the wife behind, but that was less than ideal as well.
Yeah, there really should be. I mean, families of 4 is still pretty common, and we will be one as well. We're having another baby.
All right.
This summer. So, thank you.
Well, that's why I would like you, Nick and Suzanne, if possible, to write something to council for the
Great.
Tuesday meeting, because I think they don't really understand this. They just want to have this micro shuttle that I think will not be very accessible. I'm in favor, as you know, of getting the MTD shuttles on State Street, but they don't want to do that, at least for the interim. Anyway, I just want you to know that that's coming up Tuesday. Okay, is there any input from the recognition nomination group?
I wanted to say if I can drop off the outdoor dining if Elizabeth would like that on the ad hoc.
Sure. If you, I mean, but if you're involved, I'm not, here to take it away, so,
No, it's fine.
okay.
Does anyone not agree that we could have that switch from Ms. Luckett to Ms. Sorgman?
I just want to appreciate that Ms. Luckett is making this recommendation because I can't think of anybody more qualified to help with that. And if you're willing to do it, I think it would be very helpful for the community.
So if I hear no negatives on that, we'll pass and make that trade. Thank you very much. That's nice of you, Karen. Okay, recognition nomination committee?
So I don't know how we want to proceed at this time. The committee hasn't met to discuss anything since the last meeting. Do we want to throw out names for consideration at this time?
I would suggest that ad hoc committee send a note requesting nominations.
Okay.
Rather than just doing it off the cuff and on one foot. I have an organization in mind, but I think we need to restate what those 3 categories were that we established last year, and then request not only from this committee, but maybe there's a way to put a request out publicly for nominations for those 3 different recognitions.
It's my hope that this would be our recommendation, this committee's recommendations, but I'm open to discussing.
No, I agree. It will be this committee's recommendations, but I would think we'd want to seek input
Okay.
from more than just ourselves.
Okay. And then,
But the committee should be the one then reviewing it and
Right.
Understanding what the metrics are for
Yeah.
actually acknowledging and recommending to city council who would get each of those
Yeah.
different the individual, the raising awareness, and then the actual doing of
yeah.
them.
So I'd for the benefit of the ad hoc committee, I'd like to get a little bit of feedback from the entire committee on do we want to lock ourselves into the same categories we've used in the past? And what was the other thing? Because I think we could be flexible on that. We were just, and do we want to limit the number of people or organizations that we acknowledge in any given year?
Nick, do you happen to have in front of you what the categories were?
I don't have them, and I think they were just kind of off the cuff. And as I've considered various individuals and organizations, I've seen them all fit into very unique categories, or there's a unique reason for wanting to acknowledge each individual or group, right? I think we acknowledged Victoria Strong as Advocate of the Year. Maybe our committee member Rassler remembers the category for Hillside.
Raising awareness.
Yeah.
Of issues impacting the IDD community. And the other one was raising awareness, advancing. I can check notes and.
Oh, there was the Grace Fisher Foundation.
Yes.
The one, right? So
Did we I don't think we acknowledged them.
It was not. It was the JARC, Jewish Association, I'm sorry, was it Alpha Resource Center?
No, I think it was the nonprofit that provided the bus.
You're right, the Women's Fund for Santa Barbara. For enabling.
Right. So, I don't think that we should limit ourselves personally, but I'd like to hear feedback from the entire board. Do we need to have set categories that we repeat every year?
I think the suggestion that you email what the parameters originally were, and then who the individuals that want to get recommended, so that someone has an opportunity to review it and then send comments back to this ad hoc committee.
Okay.
In the interest of time, Nick, how about if you get together with the other members of this and try to get some.
How about this? Any board member who wants to recommend someone, or an organization or individual, please send it to Brian. He can share it with the ad hoc. And when you recommend someone or nominate someone, give a brief description of what you want to acknowledge them for.
Yes.
Okay.
But it would be helpful to know what the guidelines are, or what the original guidelines were.
We really didn't have any. We just wanted to.
Or the categories.
So we never set categories.
Okay.
We
only did it one time.
Oh, I see, I get it.
And there was, the nomination came with a reason why we were nominating them. So the whole purpose of this award is for this committee to give positive feedback and reinforcement to those we feel are improving the community. I feel like we're often just seen as malcontents. And so I was trying to change those perceptions a bit.
We've got to speed stuff up here.
Yep.
So. Okay. The next one is the Special Events Committee. I don't think there's anything there, is there?
Yes, Michael might want to say what we met on.
Well, we met in late '23 with Brian and some other folks. I forget which department they were from, Parks and Recreation, I believe. And we did receive some follow-up information with some diagrams of of Alameda and a couple other parks, as well as I think what was done in other communities, if I remember correctly. We haven't reconvened since then.
I would like to, I did email Sarah for some follow-up, and I'm hoping we can meet with her as an ad hoc again.
Yeah, I was hoping the same.
Shortly, because solstice is coming.
Yep, they're already, yeah.
We want to make sure that things are in place as far as special events.
Thank you. And the last item is the ADA Transition Plan Ad Hoc, and since we're going to discuss this in full coming up, I don't think there's anything to say there. I'm trying to save time, but are there any questions or public comments about these ad hoc reports?
No public comments.
Okay. Thank you. And now it's time for our 10:30 break at 10:50.
We're close.
So can we take 5 minutes?
Yeah. Thank you.
mic is not on.
It is on. Oh, wait, sorry. It's low level. There we go.
The next item is the ADA transition plan update.
All right, thank you, Chair Marsden. Brian Demore again. I'm going to kick this off, but then I'll be handing it off to Craig Schallenberger, who's to my left here. He's still fairly new, but you were hired last year, so you've been with the city for a while. Principal architect. But I'm going to go through the slides, and then he's going to pull up some of the information that he's been going through since we received the reports from Sally Swanson, architect. So this is pretty quick update on transition plan. Just some of the dates from last year, just to remind us all that we are making good progress on this. We had a special meeting about a year ago to talk about the ADA transition plan. I think the reason we had the special meeting was because on a day like today, where we quickly ran out of time on our agenda, that item got squeezed, and we did a special meeting. And we ended up, per the direction of the committee, we put out an RFP and ended up selecting and hiring Sally Swanson Architects to move forward on this. In November, we received draft accessibility surveys for those 8 priority locations. Those were presented to the AAC back in November. We didn't have a lot of time for that item either, so we did a follow-up ADA transition plan ad hoc meeting back in December. And here we are today. This says, this is a follow-up meeting that we had with the architect at the end of January, and today is February 23rd, I think. These are the 8 priority locations. I'm not going to list them all. It's been in front of the committee many times before. But where do we go from here? And I think this is showing that we went through the RFP process, we received the proposals, we awarded the contract, we have the draft work product. Really what we need to do at this point, we've got to put the money that's been authorized by council for ADA transition plan, we've got to put it to work now. We know we have a good understanding of the needs, and that's a lot of what we want to talk about in today's discussion. This is a reminder or an updated slide. This was presented a while ago, I think it was last year when we were looking at this. It's the funding availability for ADA transition plan projects. It shows how much was approved by council each year going back to 2021, when there was 300,000, 2022 it was 350,000, 2023 it jumped up to 700,000, and then this current fiscal year, we're in FY24 right now, it dropped back down to the $350,000 level. And then FY25, that's the second year of a 2-year budget, so we already know that the financial plan has another $350,000. So with all of that added up, we haven't spent a lot of it because we've been working on planning and prioritizing. There's over $1.2 million available and another $350 due to drop into those accounts in July. So that's a good bit of money, and we really want to show the council that there's a need to continue to fund it, at least at this level. And the best way to do that, of course, is going to be by getting out into construction and taking care of the items that have been identified through the studies.
Which one of those numbers include the 100,000 we allocated for the survey, the update?
I don't remember which line item we pulled from for that survey. It was probably the Measure C ADA transition plan funding. That would be my guess. It was either that one or the general fund line item, but I think the Measure C would have made the most sense for what we chose to spend for the Sally Swanson contract. So I'm going to turn it over to Craig, who will give you an update of what he's been doing over the last couple of months to get a handle of how many different findings, 700 and something
722.
722 different findings, and he's gone through each on an individual basis. He's got a great understanding of all of those findings, and with the architect background, a good understanding of how we could package that up in an efficient way to make best use of those funds. So if you want to take it from here, he's got some other files we're going to pull up on the screen.
Yeah. Thank you all. It's nice to see you again. Actually, I should say for the first time for some of you, so I'll give a brief introduction. I'm Craig Schallenberger. The city recently created this position of principal architect under the Public Works Department. And one of the reasons for the position was to specifically address accessibility issues citywide. So in the immediate sense, it's the ADA transition plan and these 8 surveys that Brian mentioned. So since coming on board in November, I have been focused on these surveys specifically. And the challenge is to package each of these findings into a cohesive, call them bid packages, so that we can tangibly get the actual construction corrective work completed. So I've put up on the screen, you probably all have seen these, but this is an example from the Central Library, and underneath the Central Library there are, I believe, 80 findings within this report. If you go through, there will be an issue with the detectable warnings, and I won't bore you with all 80 of them, but just to say, this is an example of so what I did was studied what Sally Swanson's office provided, and then tried to convert this to, first of all, what these corrections will cost, and put some type of cost estimate to each of the findings, and then identify what trades specifically are affected, whether it's concrete, door hardware, signage, et cetera, and then try to create bid packages so that we can issue this to the contractor community and begin the work. So the first thing I did was take these reports, these surveys, and then map everything to drawings that we have for each of the sites. So this is the library, and it's hard to see. I can zoom in, but basically I've just tagged each one of the items where they occur on the site and or within the building. These are all the different floor, basement level, main level, and upper level. So everything is mapped, and this allows us to issue these drawings coupled with the survey reports to the contractors and then receive bids. And then the other thing was Sally Swanson's office had provided this list of items, and what I did, this is just a summary of everything that's in those reports in a spreadsheet form. What I did was, again, I created a cost estimate for each item, made some notes, and tagged who the trades involved would be. So one idea we have for packaging, and I'd like to actually get some feedback from the committee on the approach to getting these packages out onto the street. But for example, one idea was let's create everything related to signage, and then so this is a filter for all items related to signage. And what you can see here, if I go to the bottom, we've done this will summarize the cost for all of the signage, or estimated cost. And then the other thing that's nice is you can see this would address 117 of the 722 items by simply issuing a signage package, which I think is a nice, sole source type of, I think it'd be an effective way of getting these 117 items addressed. So sorry if I went too fast. I know it's a lot of information, but I'm trying to be conscious of your time here. Anyway, this is the approach. The next steps are to actually issuing these packages in an RFP form and obtain contractor pricing and then executing contracts. Are there any questions? I'll be
Excuse me,
glad.
Craig, on this one, just on the sign, first of all, I think the idea, the concept is wonderful. And the city's ability to find contractors in each of those areas that can actually do all of the work, in this case, 117 different jobs. I'm just curious how many, well, I guess, what's the likelihood that any sign manufacturer can do all of the variety that must be within 117, or they're going to be a variety, or can you break it down further? Some are pin-mounted letters, some are street signs, some are directional signs, some are, park and recreation for where you can or can't walk your dog or whatever. Just
Right.
the whole map of 117. Are there companies that do all of it?
Yes is the short answer, except to say typically you'll have a different company would do signage and striping in a parking lot type of signage that are pole mounted or that type of thing versus building mounted signage, room identification, directional entrance signs, that type of thing. But you could conceivably hire one company to do all building signage citywide.
Having done some signage in buildings, anything that for, the visually impaired, needs to have, the braille or,
Sure.
the lettering on it where it's accessible as well, because, some, sight disadvantaged folks also, may be in wheelchairs as well, so the standing height, but all those things taken in account in advance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent.
Craig, this is committee member Suzanne Tejada. I want to thank you for tackling this. I did spend about a couple hours reviewing this list, and it is pretty spread out. It breaks it up by building, and then it has each thing, and a lot of them are same in a lot of different locations. So I think your approach to taking the signage and kind of combining that and looking at it that way. And there's other things that the subcommittee looked at in terms of prioritizing, and a lot of that was getting to access to the structure.
Right.
And then also, entrance, door, things like that. So that's a priority. And then the other one was accessible counter heights for services.
Okay.
So that would be another grouping of, in addition to the signage category, that might be a grouped category to look at. Each site is individual, and there are difficulties, challenges in either case. But I do appreciate the approach that you're taking. I think it makes sense.
Thank you. That type of feedback, the prioritization is exactly what I'm looking for. This is an initial go-through for me, so I would like, this is just one idea, one approach. It could be hire somebody to do City Hall, all tasks at City Hall, but I don't think that's
No.
going to be effective.
I think breaking it up in the categories.
Yeah.
Like, for example, accessible parking and path of travel to the building, entrance into the building, service counters, restrooms,
Right.
signage. Those are categories that I think can be looked at on a holistic level at the city, maybe.
I
Absolutely.
suspect there'd be economies of scale doing it that way as well.
Right.
So I also appreciate this approach. I also want to acknowledge the city's effort in putting the manpower to work to do this. It was, in looking at the spreadsheet from Swanson, it was overwhelming. And so I'm glad that we have staff focused on this as a priority. The one area where I could give some feedback, some caution, if you will, for your vendors, for your contractors, is I think we have seen, I have a sense, I may be wrong, but I think we've seen where there was an effort to correct something and it didn't quite make the mark. It was the intent was there, we got the right signage, but the placement was off. And I don't know what we can do to make sure, because Swanson may note that there's a need for a sign here, and you may put it out for bid, and they prepare the sign, but the person who's installing the sign doesn't realize the height requirement, or, the contrast, I don't know. There's so many different things. So how can we ensure that these, whoever contracts to provide the solution is aware of the nuance involved with accessibility?
That will definitely be part of the bid documents that go out. There will be basically extracts from Chapter 11B that provide the diagrams, the dimensions and reach heights, ranges, all of those technical requirements.
Great.
Yeah.
So I would like to chime in and say congratulations.
Thank you.
And also, as president of CASI, to encourage you to participate in the seminars and webinars that we have, and hoping that you will take your CASP exam and be successful, because that will be useful for the city.
Thank you. I should have mentioned, I am currently in the process. My exam, I believe, is in June.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Wonderful.
Right. And then I just have some questions. I did see the report. I haven't gone into depth because I haven't spent that much time on it yet. But I know there was a premise when the initial RFI went out, was to analyze all of the facilities based on the current code. And so not all of the facilities would be non-compliant if no work has been done to them. So the the current code wouldn't be applicable necessarily. So I'm just wondering, when you were prioritizing, maybe looking at the parks or the structures that are utilized more, so giving priority to those. And also, there was work, especially you just showed the library. So those were permits that were issued recently. So the fact that a contractor did them incorrectly shouldn't be at the expense of the city. Those should be redone at the expense of the contractor,
Yes.
because there were details and there were specific information on those approved set of plans that gave information. So it's a little disheartening to see so many things that were done incorrectly. So I'm hoping that in your position, you may also participate in going out to the job sites, to overseeing the work that's being done, to correct this ahead of time, so that then it doesn't cost the city money, or they're not in litigation with the contractor trying to make the contractor come back and fix it.
Yes, in fact, one of the reasons I use the library as an example is it is currently under, as you know, the plaza is under construction, and we have been having course of construction accessibility inspections by the building department, not at the end of construction when things are already built and done, but during the process. For example, handrail,
Right.
those types of things on the ramp railings and the stair railings. Those have been specifically reviewed to avoid that exact scenario you just mentioned.
So the thing that I don't have confidence in with that is that we do not have any CASP inspectors nor plans examiners. When I was working here, I worked for 17 years at the city. We had 4 CASP, 2 reviewing plans, and then 2 inspectors. And I recently looked at some plans for Ledbetter Beach and was really disappointed that during plan check, a lot was missed. A lot of technical stuff was missed in that review of that facility. So, I mean, I really encourage you, and I'm really excited if that you already have your exam dates. And again, CASI and a network of CAS, really, they're all accessibility nerds that love to talk about this stuff. And so I just encourage you to be successful and to reach out to others, because there are ADA coordinators that I'm not sure if you're attending their monthly meetings, that really want to facilitate and get people up to snuff on what is required.
Great, I will
Thank you.
do.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
reach out to me. I'm available, so,
Thank you.
okay.
Craig, I want to say thank you for this work. I know it's a lot of time to do, but I like the way you're looking at it. I have a question. It's been bothering me. 2 things. One, Elizabeth mentioned the library. We all know the South Side Library was done incorrectly, accepted by the city, done wrong by the contractor. And as she said, I don't understand why we have to spend city money to fix that, but I think you said, made some kind of comment about that.
Well, just that I can't make any concrete commitments on that end, but we have internally discussed approaching the contractor. Now, I don't know the contract documents for those projects and what the scope of those projects were specifically, so it's hard to say if there's any recourse. But from our perspective, it doesn't really matter. One way or the other, it'll get rectified.
Okay. And I just want to throw in the Carrillo Art Center was not done according to plans. There's a lot of problems there that were done incorrectly, and also some of the parks, Mackenzie Park. But my other thought was, just as a non-city employee, it seems to me that we could buy, and I'll use the example of the bathroom signage. We could just buy those and have city staff put those on it, just screw it in or something. Is it possible to have some of this stuff done by maintenance or anything, or do we have to put this all out to bid to an outside contractor?
I'll have to defer to Brian on that, to be honest. I'm not there yet.
Chair Marston, there is a possibility of that, but I think it is more efficient if, this is a pretty big amount of work just for signage, and it would pull our limited resources that we have internally for building maintenance away.
Okay.
And as we've seen this winter, they're needed to deal with leaky roofs and different things that come up, different emergencies that come up throughout the year. And my fear would be that we hand it over to them and it sits longer than we'd like.
Makes sense. I just will point out that, I'll speak for Skylar too, but I have probably walked into women's bathrooms at least 10 times because the signage was not there. And it's pretty embarrassing. Well, it's not embarrassing, but it's whatever. And I'm sure Skylar's had the same problem. There's no excuse not to have the raised circle or triangle at all the bathrooms. So I'm glad you're doing it. I'll shut up for that.
I have a question. This signage is 64,000, and we have 1,200,000 and some. So we still have $1,164,000. Did you do an Excel for bathrooms and access ramps and doors? Something like this?
Short answer is yes. I can filter on anything under this. If you look at the trade or whatever's involved, I can change this for whether it's grinding of concrete where it's lipped on the sidewalks, whether it's door hardware, whether it's toilet accessories, any of those categories. We can. The point was to create an ability to package items in a cohesive manner.
Could you show us the Excel for bathrooms?
Sure. So let me
What,
just
you're
go.
specifically looking for the filtered cost of bathroom. How have you broken down the bathroom filter? Is it just as a whole or specific?
90% of that would be under the toilet accessories heading. So I just did. We have the entire toilet accessories list here. It's a lot. It's probably half of the list actually, which is encouraging because these are relatively inexpensive and easily addressable items, as opposed to regrading a parking lot. Just.
So I'm sorry, you weren't done? I'll let you finish.
I didn't see the total numbers of what it would cost to fix all the bathrooms.
Sorry, there is a bit of some formulas that have to be done, and I only prepared the signage. You can see if I click in that, there's a formula that you have to run to be able to have the filtered total. So I would need more time to do that on an individual basis. But I'm in the process of doing that. So by the next meeting, you'll have that.
You've got it all
Yeah.
in one place.
Right.
Correct.
You can now slice and dice
Correct.
it based on a question or what your team tells
Mm-hmm.
you they need to know.
Yes.
I think this would be very helpful in prioritizing. It would allow you to address the largest number of deficiencies quickly and cost effectively. I wonder though if you have a flag for health and safety issues. Some of these items may be a peril to the community. I think we saw one of those, a curb on the ramp at the Cabrillo Pavilion. That could be a serious risk of injury, and those should probably be flagged for prioritization.
Yeah, and then I just want to remind, I mean, the code basic premise is the priority is being able to get into the facility. So, I mean, in terms of trying to, yeah, you can fix the bathroom and signs, but if someone can't get into the structure, then those are kind of pointless. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Great idea, great point.
Chair Marston, were we going to outline some priorities that you found with this report?
I think that would be a function of the ad hoc.
We did look at that, but it's really a lot. And what Craig is doing is helping to break it up into groups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really helpful.
Yeah,
This
that's,
is a great
it's a really
update.
great tool
Yeah.
that you just set up.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm very happy with that. I would say my biggest concern was safety, first of all. And of course, in a perfect world, we would fix everything. But when I think about bathrooms, a lot of the problems was that the soap dispenser or the toilet dispenser was not at the right height.
Right.
Those can get expensive, but the things like the doors not closing, not having a handle for closing the door, being able to lock, even a coat hanger that's lowered. These things are cheap to do. We could knock a lot of stuff off there. I would like to have all the bathroom fixtures in the right place, but that's not a safety issue.
Really, soap dispensers are one of the most expensive things to change. That's surprising.
I wonder what staff thinks about timing for another ad hoc committee meeting. I think there's new things to discuss, but maybe you've got some more milestones you want to achieve before we have that. So
Are they typically midpoint between these regular meetings, or what
they're
is?
as needed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask you about the tactile domes and striping on stairs? Do you have those separate at all? Because a lot of the stairs just need striping on them. Again, not a very expensive thing to do, but a safety issue for sure.
I can filter by keyword, and detectable warnings is one of the keywords.
Okay.
Striping is a keyword. Basically, I try to put in a lot of flexibility in this analysis to be able to do exactly what you're speaking of.
Okay. That sounds good. But this is the only one you have totally finished, correct? For the,
I just wanted to use it as an example
good.
of,
I appreciate
of a
that.
package, of a proposed package, I should say.
Yeah.
Should we actually start with the,
Let's take it to the ad hoc, Jim.
okay.
I'm concerned with our time and the agenda, but very happy with the progress.
Great.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank
very
you.
much glad to hear that.
Thanks, Craig.
Thanks.
Public comment?
Will we have another follow-up when he does those calculations with the formulas so we can look at numbers and how many items?
So
We're gonna
we'll
address-
schedule an ad hoc in the next month or so. And I think this item's going to continue to come back to the full committee for updates.
Okay. Greg, do you think you'd have everything done by the 3 months from now?
I think that's reasonable. The initial work here was probably more. The only thing I have really left that I thought in my mind to do was to finish the mapping. The library is the only one that I've mapped all of the
Okay.
findings, and it involves finding archive drawings, and it's a whole exercise, but 3 months is, yeah, doable.
Now, is the mapping just mainly to help the contractor know where these, okay, that's good.
Well, frankly, it was to help me
Okay.
know where everything was.
Yeah.
Just reading through the report, it's nice that there are photos and a description,
Yeah, but you have
I
to
don't
know
know where.
building inside out to know
Right.
where those are.
Exactly.
And just last question here. I know a lot of them had to do with the tables were the wrong height or something, like in the libraries and things like that.
Yeah,
To me,
I-
that's something that the library can just put in a budget to buy new tables.
That is the approach that I've suggested in
Okay.
here. I've put a dollar amount basically for a new piece of furniture. Yeah,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
All right, the next one is item 11, the Ledbetter.
Did we have any public comments?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Any public comments?
No public comments.
Okay.
For the ADA
For-
transition
For
plan.
this item. No, this is number 10.
Okay.
All right, let's go to item number 11. This is a Ledbetter Beach. We're going to have a presentation.
Hello, I'm Lynn Birch.
The little light.
Is Michael Wisher here?
Good afternoon, I'm Lynn Birch. I'm the project engineer at the Waterfront Department. I'm here to present the Ledbetter restroom upgrade. I've brought an example or an exhibit here of the plan to convert the restroom facility and make it ADA compliant. Right now, there are no ADA accessible stalls in the facility. And it was proposed as part of our maintenance and repair project. The facility is about 50 years old, so it's in need of quite a bit of work. And of course, this would be the time to make sure that we bring everything back up to code and accessible. You can see in the northern end of the building that is where we propose removing one of the existing 5 stalls. And then each side would have 4 restroom facilities, one of them being the ADA compliant space. And then, of course, all of the fixtures and lavatories would be upgraded as well. And I did speak with Elizabeth regarding some of the details on the plan that need to be adjusted. We're speaking to the items just previously mentioned about locations of some of the fixtures, and they're pretty specific, to the code. So to make sure all the Ts are crossed. And did you have any questions regarding this project?
I have some comments.
Sure.
In looking at the plan, you gave way more room to the accessible stall that's needed. So if you were to make that compliant with the 60-inch minimum, and if you removed one lavatory, one sink, lavatory, you would be able to keep the 5 stalls that you originally have, so that you're not reducing fixtures. You would just be reducing a sink, which might serve the facility better. And it's not a huge design change. And I think we have mentioned adding something to the facility to provide a dressing area, kind of like a family restroom where you would have dressing, the toilet, the sink. But if you were to just tweak those dimensions a little bit, you could get it to be compliant and keep the same amount of fixtures except for 2 sinks.
Right. And so with this project, we're working with 2 parameters, one being within the existing building footprint, because we're on the coastal zone, and that's our limitation there. And then budget-wise, so we also were working with the existing partition walls that are in the restroom. So that's a great idea. And we're certainly revisit it. We're reviewing the whole project now. And we have extended the schedule out at least a year so that we can take into consideration these suggestions and revise the plan. So certainly we'll make note of that one.
And then I did take a look and did speak to others regarding the parking, because the parking is not accessible. It looks like when you go through Google Street View, At some point, there was some kind of charger with some bollards in front of it, and then it had wheel stops that prevented the vehicles from encroaching into the pathway. So that was taken out, and so there are no wheel stops. I was there a couple of weeks ago. There are
Right.
no wheel stops there, so I took photographs, happy to share them with you. There's no possible way for someone in a wheelchair to be able to go in front of the vehicles. They would have to go behind parked vehicles, which is not allowed.
Right.
And then there has to be some separation because it's a blended transition. So you're going to have your curb ramp, your relocated curb ramp from the sidewalk down to this access route.
Right.
And then a curb that separates the parking spaces could be one truncated domes, could be another. Bollards, if they're placed close enough so that it prevents a vehicle from encroaching into that area. And then just maintenance-wise, there's always sand, so if you could put 2 curbs, you at least minimize the amount of sand, because a wheelchair trying to go across all that sand, it doesn't make sense.
Right, right. That's a constant battle in that
Yeah.
parking lot. As you know, this week, we had
Yeah.
another storm surge, and there's debris all over the place. So that is something that does take constant maintenance and upkeep, just to keep that pathway clear. So, yeah, added curb on the perimeter, just at the very edge of the pavement. I don't know how much good it'll do, but certainly the daily, for
Yeah.
most of the time, it'll help prevent the sand from covering the walkway. And then, of course, adding the wheel stops. And again, with all of the storm surges and debris and cleanup, probably the wheel stops were moved at some point in the activity there.
So if you had a curb, it wouldn't move.
Right.
All right, those are my comments, and I appreciate your willingness to speak to me when I called you about that.
Oh, absolutely.
I was really, thank you.
Yeah. Was there any other comments or questions?
I have some notes.
Oh, you know what, I remember reading in some of the Independent and some of the community, I guess, outreach and comments is the loss of the dressing areas and then the loss of the showers.
Right. The project originally included, and this was something that was proposed probably 10 years ago, to open the lines of sight at the facility because it has become an attractive nuisance over the years. So originally, we were proposing to remove those exterior walls, and then we were then going to leave them in place and continue with the ADA upgrades. At this point, everything's, like I said, just kind of on hold to revisit the entirety of the project. And then the showers also, just to bring those up to ADA compliance, that those little walls that the existing showers are mounted in would be replaced with an ADA compliant column shower. And we wouldn't lose any shower heads. They would be one-for-one replaced.
Yeah, I know that some of the concerns have just been privacy and, and it's actually not a shower, it's a rinsing station. So
Right.
a rinsing station has a different requirement, much easier to comply with than a
Exactly.
shower. So really, it looks like you already have the required area in front of one of the shower heads. And I counted the bricks in the photo that I took, and it looked like it was already at 48 inches. So it looked like it's already compliant. Maybe it's just the pressure that's not compliant. So it wouldn't be that difficult to make that compliant and maybe buy some more time for the public to be able to participate and give input. I mean, as a kid, our family used to use that facility because you could change, there was some privacy, you would take little kids. So it's something that we used to go for every 4th of July, our family would hang out there.
Sure.
And so it's something that we used a lot, so it's kind of, it's sad to see that get demolished and changed. I can see it getting a facelift and maybe the walls being lowered a little bit. So then you address safety because you can see over the wall and it's not so high. But it does provide protection. And it's, if you're swimming and it's cold out there, having that wall protects you from the breezes and just not feeling so vulnerable to the elements.
Yeah, and it's a double-edged sword because with the privacy that it offers, it also entices inappropriate use or misuse of the area. And so then we've had, support in the project to, like I said, open up the lines of sight to discourage the misuse of the area.
Could you share with us what kind of problems you've had there? Because we haven't seen anything documented, but what kind of things happen?
The vagrancy, illegal activities in there. People in the restaurant have reported seeing people in the shower area completely disrobed. There's just a lot of cleanup from overnight where people have been using the exterior of the building as a restroom because the facility's locked. So there's a lot of, cleanup with, it's very unhealthy, is the word I would choose.
I know this was not done on purpose, but just want to point out that when I first got aware of this, it looked like the public was thinking that their loss of the changing areas and the showers and the protection was all caused by ADA bathrooms. It didn't really say this. It's two projects. One was to fix the ADA accessible bathrooms. And number two was to remove all this other stuff you didn't want to have there. But it made it look like ADA was causing this, and I hope that people understand it.
Right, and just to add to that, even yesterday, I received several direct emails from members of the public. I think some of the same people who submitted written public comments as well that might be coming up. And that's never happened in my entire time on the board. So there is a lot of passion around this issue of privacy, which is persuasive to me, but it is largely separate from the ADA issues. For me personally, my family and I kind of prefer to just go home after the beach and get ourselves home rather than showering there. But I think the privacy is important, and it's interesting that there's so much public engagement around that issue.
So since the shower renovation or plans are not part of this presentation, does that mean it wouldn't be presented to the board to look at? Because it's a different issue?
Yes, when we reconfigure a new plan, and that would be certainly included in a presentation.
Right.
Just for your information now, again, there is, if you're not familiar with the facility, there's 2 shower walls so the shower heads are mounted into a wall, and those would be replaced with the standard ADA column type shower. So as far as the pressure to operate and handles and accessibility.
No, I understand, but I'm just saying, since the plans aren't here, I really can't speak to the specifics, and I think looking at it as a whole project would be more helpful than just separating out the 2 parts.
Sure.
Can you tell us what the date was when you said you might come back with your new plan? Is like a year? I think you said a year.
Yeah, it's going to be pushed out to the next fiscal year. I mean, at this point, the funds have been reappropriated to other projects, so.
So nothing's being done now, at least for a year,
Right,
correct? Okay.
right.
So
Thank you.
will there be outreach to the community then to participate in providing more input as to what the final design's going to be?
There certainly will be community outreach, as,
Okay.
we've had leading up to this. And again, it was a regular maintenance and repair project, again, because of the facility being 50 years old. And then these changes were also posted, and we didn't anticipate such a large reaction to it. So we're definitely addressing that.
The reaction is remarkable. I've received more public outreach directly to me on this issue than perhaps all issues in my involvement with this committee combined. I felt like my phone number had been written on that bathroom stall. It was remarkable. And the things that I'm hearing about, I have seen press releases and I've heard comments from the public that does, seem to blame accessibility requirements for the loss of functionality or features that the public is concerned about. And that's unfortunate. I'm concerned about the loss of fixture count. I'm impressed and encouraged by Vice Chair Sorgman's suggestion to remove a sink. I don't think anybody would miss a sink. They're going to miss that extra bathroom, and I know that they're all almost every comment I heard was from someone who's an open water swimmer who's very concerned about losing the ability to change and shower. And their feedback is that if they lose the privacy in the shower, then they're going to be using the stall to change. And that's going to add load to the bathroom facility and not have, and I know when people want to change, they use the ADA compliant stall because they've got more room for it. And so I would like to see the scope increased, if anything, to accommodate the growth of our community.
Yeah, again, we're working within the footprint of the existing structures, because
Yeah.
even if we so much as tear down one of those walls, I think we'd have a really hard time getting Coastal Commission to approve rebuilding anything, just because we're so close to the ocean there. So certainly we can't propose expanding the building or expanding the footprint.
And so, I mean, going to the Coastal Commission is, I know it's time consuming, but is that the only reason why it's not being reviewed? I mean, does the city believe that they would not get anything approved?
We've pretty much been told that through planning, just the guidelines that they have set now as far as development that close to the coast.
Okay.
And also budgetary constraints, with what we were planning on doing, again, a maintenance and repair project, not a major capital improvement.
Was there an aspect of bike route change here? I heard a concern about that from the public too.
There currently is, we have a consultant underway to address the path of travel or between the multi-use path at Ledbetter Beach and the one that's at the Harbor Way, and they'll be studying the traffic plan in and around the area to address a safe route along the beach side, but it's a separate project from this. It's right now in study phase.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate this review, and as you know, there is no CASP at the plan checkers here in town. So I hope you can go reach out to someone before you get these plans done for the bathroom, and I'm sure that Ms. Sorgman would be happy to help you.
I think
but-
you also have Craig now, so that you can.
Yeah.
Right, definitely. We will be going through it with a fine tooth comb.
All right. Any
So-
other questions for this?
Yeah, I guess, what was Waterfront looking for this committee to weigh in on? What feedback are you looking for?
I guess that at some point when we do come back with a full set of plans, you would have a chance to review the details, and also just to answer to the community if there was questions about the appropriateness of making some of these changes.
Right.
Okay.
And I just want to thank you and city for at least listening and postponing this project so that you can
Yes.
get more input, because, I mean, having worked at the city for 17 years, it's short-staffed. And you really try hard to reach out to the community, and it doesn't always happen. And wherever you put information, you assume someone's going to read it, and they don't. And then you're surprised at a meeting where a lot of people show up because you didn't think enough, about it, or didn't see the unintended consequences that any design has. And so thank you for, listening, and you're probably the person that receives the most
Sure.
brunt of the,
Yeah, so the point of
the
contact.
concern, right? So,
And we've gotten support too. I mean, so
Yeah.
it's, I don't think is vocal, but we're certainly, still motivated to make, obviously the ADA changes and bring things, because there is, right now, it's
right.
inaccessible, and the nearest accessible restroom is a quarter-mile away.
Right.
So
Yeah, and
we
it's-
definitely want to address that.
Yeah, the city is obligated to make it accessible, so that's the responsibility. It doesn't go away, and, there's always the potential for someone to sue because they couldn't use something.
Right, yeah.
So,
Thank you very much for listening to everybody's comments and deciding to put this on hold. I appreciate that, and I think we need to have some public comments now.
There are 3 public comments, the first being in person by Michael Riley.
Good morning. My name is Michael Riley, and I'm a resident of Santa Barbara for about 40 years, and here to speak about the Ledbetter Beach project. And first of all, I just have to say thank you for everything that you've said, what I've heard, your support, and the attention to the project. I'm kind of standing on behalf of 450 petition signatures as that stands now, but this is January and February. If this was May, June, July, I dare say we might have north of 1,000 signatures of people that are in support of wanting a facility that's usable for everybody. And so to address the issue, and it disheartens me to hear that we are anti-ADA, because that's absolutely 180 degrees opposite of how we feel. We want this to be a win-win-win situation, a win for the city, a win for the planners and the project doers that have to do this, but also a win for all people that use this facility. So we are not anti-ADA, and we are in full support of what you have to do for these bathrooms to make that happen. The last little sticking point kind of seems to be the walls, and we just really like the idea that you were speaking to privacy. It does matter. If I was sitting at the deck of Shoreline Cafe and eating and saw somebody thoroughly cleansing themselves today, I think about what that would look like if we were all huddled around a shower post for rinsing ourselves off. I think the visibility would be enhanced. So I want to thank you. I can't add any more to it. Just thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
I just want to make a comment about the privacy of the shower. I was thinking the same thing. If you have no walls, if someone's going to be nude to take a shower behind a little wall, I don't think that's going to stop them from being nude with no wall. So it's just more exposure for that kind of thing from the cafe.
They thoroughly clean themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, our next public comment is by Victoria Valente.
Hello, board members. I'm Victoria Valente. I'm a 33-year resident, 34-year resident of Santa Barbara. This project has been placed on hold, but sometime in the future, it's going to return to the table, and we will need to push for a bigger and better design. As an epicenter of the Santa Barbara Beach and Aquatics community, the Ledbetter restroom and shower facilities need to be larger than the proposed design. The Ledbetter restroom facilities need more bathroom stalls. Both men's and women's restrooms should contain 5 regular stalls and at least 1 ADA stall, plus an interior or exterior ADA changing area. Exterior changing rooms should be preserved or built anew, maintaining the current size and including the current privacy and wind wall design. ADA features need to be retrofitted or included. Exterior showers with wind wall protection should be preserved or built anew, like-for-like construction, maintaining the current size and including the current privacy and wind wall design. ADA features need to be retrofitted or included. I don't believe that the proposed pole design showers would be agreeable to many, including those with ADA requirements. There have been comments made about the wind walls and if they will be approved, and I don't, by Coastal Commission, I don't believe that's truly an issue. And I believe they can be reconstructed using marine safe materials like fiberglass rebar. But the current design has been there for 55 years and it's held up pretty well. If you go down there and look, you'd see that that the changing areas hardly show anywhere at all. And the shower wind walls that receive most of the ocean wind and sand blowing and dampness, they have some cracks that have been repaired, but they're 55 years old, so I think they've done pretty well. One more thing, while we are waiting for this renovation, which might take years, an ADA porta potty should be installed during the interim. That's too long to wait, I believe. Thank you. Oh, one more thing. I would like one of you to make a motion regarding the Ledbetter restroom project. The motion is to request that the $250,000 allocated for the Ledbetter restroom renovation project be earmarked for a larger project at this site. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not that familiar with the Coastal Commission's rules. Are we sure that we cannot expand anything here?
That's, Berlin, that's a question for you. I think
Yeah.
you said that planning told you that likely you would not get it approved?
Yeah, and I mean, we can certainly research that more, but what I was told basically is that if they had their way, we'd knock the whole thing down and build it 50 feet back away from the water line, so.
Well, can we ask the Coastal Commission directly how they feel about this?
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can submit it and see what they have to say.
It has to go through a submittal process. There's no informal path of dialogue.
We certainly can look into that.
You know, there used to be a city planner that went there, or she came from there to here. I forget which way it went, but. You know,
Yeah, our city planners are pretty well versed in, and have a lot of experience working. I mean, that's pretty much a lot of what they do. And this facility is just inside the local coastal plan, so it's in the local coastal plan purview, but they have to coordinate with, Coastal Commission. So.
Yeah, maybe if you could move forward with just asking if there's an informal process of submitting something to just rebuild what you have in terms of a maintenance project, and see if you get direction, because then you would be able to come back to the public and say, we went through the process, we have definitely been denied, or, they're supportive of it. So that way, it's not us guessing whether it would be approved or not, but
Sure.
we went through the process, this is what happened.
Okay, definitely.
I asked the question because we've been asked to have a motion to rebuild it bigger, and I don't know if it's possible, so I think we need to find out what the Coastal Commission says.
I think that would be way out of our lane to do so anyway.
Yeah.
So,
If the Coastal Commission says we can't expand the footprint, then we don't have that option.
Right, it's also a budgetary consideration.
Right.
Of what, we can afford to do.
Okay.
but about the budget, with this project on hold, is there still budgeting earmarked? That's what I heard in the last public comment. There was concern for the budget to be there for whatever we do down the line. How does this
I don't know what
pause?
the budget looks like for the next fiscal year. We can look into that. What I've, been directed is that this money is going towards other projects for this year.
Okay. And it is a really great idea, because it isn't compliant to perhaps investigate putting a accessible porta potty out there.
Sure.
And to your point, if the Coastal Commission won't let us expand, and you're concerned that knocking down the wind wall would mean that it would never be able to be rebuilt, that's all the more reason in my mind to preserve it, because once you go there, you can never go back.
Right.
So we should be looking at other solutions for the problematic behavior. We shouldn't take away the amenity from those who need and enjoy it because it's being misused, in my opinion.
Right.
Thank you. It reminds me of when they took away all the benches on State Street because of the homeless problem.
Right.
Well, the homeless are still there, but there's no place to sit.
Right.
So who wins?
Yeah.
You know?
No one.
So solution to me sounds like a vagrancy ordinance. I think we're entirely too welcoming.
All right. Well, thanks for those comments, but we look forward to see what Coastal Commission has to say. I think that's a good idea. Any other public comments, I think?
Our last public comment is on Zoom. Anna Marie Gott, you are unmuted. Please go ahead.
Excuse me, not good evening, good morning, board members. I just don't want staff to gaslight you regarding the need for a coastal development permit from the Coastal Commission. I believe that the Coastal Commission would jump for joy with regards to having you expand the building. This entire project was focused on not getting a coastal development permit and to ensure that this was under repair and maintenance. There really wasn't a lot of consideration in terms of the demand, the growth of the community, or the growth of tourism, or the uses, which have just multiplied since this building was built in 1969. If you think about, there were no classes for Santa Barbara, college students down there for swimming and surfing. There were no paddle boarders down there. There was very few people that were down there swimming to get ready for triathlons. The need for a larger bathroom is there, and the only thing that is really, holding them back is the budget. And so I would really recommend that you actually make the motion that I proposed in the email I sent to you, because all it is doing is requesting, that the Harbor Commission allocate money for the Ledbetter Beach restroom project, and that money be earmarked for a larger project at that site. The future project would then enlarge the bathroom facilities to accommodate at least one ADA bathroom stall in the men's and the women's restroom, and retain the 5 regular bathroom stalls for the women's bathroom, and 2 regular bathroom stalls and 3 urinals for the men's. This project would also preserve the changing areas, which I think you've heard a lot about, and also ensure that the wind walls with the shower fixtures be preserved or rebuilt to include the foot showers. Now, I think that all of us are aware that the need down there and the demand is there for a larger bathroom. And this is the perfect time, instead of just, getting a little bit of money for a facelift, to actually do it right and recognize the actual need and demand for the uses at that restroom. So, I really hope that you would make that motion. You can add that, we should go out to the Coastal Commission and ask, if they could get a coastal development permit. But really, that's not even something that you should be considering, because a coastal development permit usually comes after design, not before. And even if you went out to Coastal Commission, I doubt that they would even respond. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I know there's been a lot of new usage down there. I think you sent out some good information about how many more people are using the facility.
I mean, I think we've given direction to staff about at least reaching out in some informal way. I mean, I don't know if they have some kind of pre-app or something where you could at least submit something to see, one, if some of these things can be rebuilt, and 2, if there's any chance that it could be expanded. I mean, I understand that there's a lot of logistics.
Sorry.
We've already given direction to staff to look at that. I don't think that I need to make a motion. We've already stated that.
I don't think our motion would carry any
Yeah,
weight.
we don't have any weight.
authority to.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, it
an
would be-
advisory group. So, I mean, I think
We've already advised staff to speak to the
Right.
Coastal Commission.
Right.
Yeah.
And we'll see if there's any further detail or direction or concrete parameters of what can and can't be done.
Yeah.
On the other hand, we have passed a few motions about various things that are meant to be kind of like an extra step. Right? So I guess the question is this enough of?
Is Megan Harmon still on the Coastal Commission? I think.
I don't know.
Could you check that out? She's a council person, and she might be able to do something that, without plans, just to find out. If it's possible to build larger, that would be great. We could then discuss that at another meeting. But right now, we need to know what the Coastal Commission is going to do.
I've heard a number of people talking about the foot showers, and I wonder if there's an opportunity to provide the foot showers outside of the privacy or wind screening, in addition to what's already there. Would that trigger a Coastal Commission requirement, just foot bath areas? Can anybody speak to that?
I'll take a crack at it. Access Advisory Committee. I'm Mike Wiltshire, Waterfront Director. Lynn's been kind of at the tip of the spear of all this as the project engineer. Good to see some of you again. I used to staff this years ago. The point of all of this is, so we had a maintenance and repair project in place. We heard from the community, so we're essentially hitting the pause button completely. The redesign of the facility, going through Coastal Commission, planning, all that stuff lays in front of us. And so to kind of cherry pick different parts of that right now and bring it back, what we're tasking our staff with is to go re-envision this project in its entirety. We're essentially at day one of that. So I think the best approach forward is to, as that design unfolds, we can bring it back to you with more information, not only on Coastal Commission, but on what a future project would even look like. And so it might be premature now to go to the Coastal Commission because we don't have a design or an idea of what that future facility is going to look like. So maybe within the next year or so, we can bring something back to you. My recommendation would be for us to put, it's quite often we will set aside design funds and then construction funds at a later date. So we'll likely take a portion of the $250,000 that was in place to maintain and repair this facility, say take $50,000, $75,000 as a placeholder to design some future facility that maximizes the benefit to the users, addresses ADA compliance, addresses our security and health concerns, but we won't know enough to take to the Coastal Commission until we have that design. And so it would be a little premature just kind of taking them some esoteric idea of what we're going to do. So that would be staff's recommendation.
Good to see you again, Mike. One more question that just came to mind is, is it too late to consider just scaling back on the initial scope of the maintenance issue, following Vice Chair Sorgman's recommendation that you remove a sink and put the ADA compliant toilet at that end, and so that we don't lose momentum on that effort while we pause to think about how we really want to improve this facility in the larger scope of things.
Yeah, community member Coots, that's a great, we've already talked about that in-house as staff. The tough thing is we could go ahead with all of the internal ADA improvements. It would cost, that's the bulk of the expense of the project, so it would cost upwards of $200,000, say. The problem is then if we engage in a design process to do something dramatic to the building, we've just sort of put $200,000 out there for the next 2 to 3 years that will, so it's kind of that responsible use of money thing, but I totally hear what you're saying. The answer is yes, we could move forward with portions of the project, but that would sort of cement the facility more in its current configuration.
I mean, would there be the possibility that you could renovate what's there now and then design another facility that might have a better chance of passing through Coastal Commission, so in that same area but in a different location? So you've provided more fixtures and another facility that can be used, and at the same time make this one compliant.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. In a perfect world where funds were unlimited, I don't know when the last time a restroom facility was built on the coast in Santa Barbara. So I think we're talking just for kind of scope and scale up in the $1 million range plus to kind of get that through. So from a construction point of view, yes, of course. Our city engineers and our local contractors can build almost anything anywhere. Is that possible or feasible, or does the waterfront have the dollars for that right now? No, we don't. And so we're trying to responsibly get through our list of deferred maintenance projects. Much as with Public Works and throughout the city, we have more maintenance projects than we have dollars to spend on. So we really try and prioritize those. Keeping Stearns Wharf afloat, the breakwater, the harbor itself, our parking lots, all this stuff that we need to feed money annually. And so if we take all of that money and put it into one restroom facility, that might not be the most responsible use of funds, but it could theoretically be done.
But would Ms. Sorgman's approach really require that much money? It seems like maybe a simpler approach, maybe it would be a smaller budgetary consideration.
No, in short, we can move forward with any portions of these maintenance projects. So we could take the interior of the building, leave the walls in place, just do the ADA upgrades to the interior per plan. We've already paid for those plans. We can make those upgrades, look into the small changes of maximizing the number of restrooms. So we can do that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The place I was confused on, if you just make the changes to the interior bathrooms, removing that sink and making another stall, you say later on you might have to do something different with that. But to me, that bathroom could stay the way it is once you fix it. And then we talk about the showers and the wind wall and stuff.
No, I totally agree. But hearing today from the public, there now seems to be kind of let's tear it down and build a bigger facility or have a bigger facility than it's there. So we could certainly move forward with the ADA compliance components to the interior of the building in really short order. Within the next month, 3 months, we're moving down that track until we hit the pause button in the fall because of all the community outreach. And so we're just kind of, the thought was to take a step back and re-envision the project in its entirety to ensure that we don't kind of throw money down and then get back in there in 2 or 3 years from now and tear out what we just spent to put in.
Okay, thank you. Good to see you. Any comments from the audience at all?
I think realistically, nothing larger is going to be done. Realistically. So I think it would be better to accommodate the people that need being accommodated and provide them with the ADA facility, an ADA stall, an ADA sink, and maybe just an ADA attachment to one of the showers so that it's easier to push the button for now. Because I really don't think that anything, because of budget constraint, nothing bigger is going to be done. And by the way, in this very last storm, you've seen that those walls have protected the facility from all the onslaught of the sand that's come in the parking lot. There was very little sand behind the shower walls. And right now, the sand has come to the edge of where a footpath for bicycles has been scheduled. And I think that footpath is very dangerous because people coming out of the bathrooms, especially people in wheelchairs coming out of the bathroom, suddenly they're going to be run over by these electric bikes. They're going at the speed of light right now to the parking lot. Anyway, that's my take on it.
Thank you. Can you come up to the microphone?
Chair James Manchin, just so you're aware, we're over the meeting end time and public comment section is over. It's currently
And I have a hard stop, I've got to go.
Okay.
Okay.
Just very quick.
This will be our last comment then.
The knobs, the existing knobs are within 48 inches high.
I just, I'm not sure that they are. I just counted the bricks.
I took a tape measure out
Okay.
there. Some of them are at 48, some of them are at 46
That's
inches
fine.
high.
Yeah.
Just FYI.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. I'm going to call the meeting to a close.
Yeah, I had one little